Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first lesson for chapter 7. It's on Commandments 1 through 3. And all these commandments are about our relationship with God. And this first lesson is going to be about the first commandment that says, we shall have no other gods before our God. So these are our lesson objectives for our first lesson. So we're going to be able to explain the letter of the law and the spirit of the law in Commandments 1 through 3. You're going to complete a vocabulary sheet by taking notes. This chapter has a lot of vocab, so I made a special sheet for that. And these are the words you're going to be able to define by the end of the lesson: idolatry, superstition, divination, magic, irreligion, sacrilege, simony or simony, atheism, agnosticism, humanism, Marxism, communism, Freudianism, and materialism. Then justify why the first commandment should be followed. And finally, in class, we're going to create a poster that analyzes modern false gods that tempt teenagers today. So we began in class with this warm-up. It is called Classwork 7.31, and it's in the white Chapter 7 folder on Schoology. I'll show you where that is in a second. But our assignment that we're going to do to see how you understand this commandment is going to be looking at how modern media lures teenagers away, not to false gods like the ancient god Marduk, but to other things that take the place of God in our hearts, like money or wealth or fame or power. So we're going to be looking at advertisements. And so I'll show you where this is on Schoology. Now, if you were absent, then you don't have to, if you are absent, you'll be excused from this. So if you're watching this and you are absent, please let me know to excuse you from this. So here's the folder we're working in currently. It's the white Chapter 7 folder. So if we open this up and we go to classwork and discussions, what we do for our warm-up for this class is we're doing, sorry, not that one, it's classwork 7.31 Mad Men. And if you open it up, okay, so this assignment gets us ready for doing the analysis we're going to do of popular culture later. So what we did was we looked at a clip from Mad Men. And if you'd like to see it, you can. And in the clip, Don Draper, the star of the show, is talking about how he advertises Hershey bars. And basically, it shows sort of the manipulation behind advertisements. So what the students did was think of a memorable ad that caught your attention. What was it for? Why was it memorable? What was the underlying message of the ad? Did you purchase the product? So the underlying message is key, because if we are honest with ourselves, there's always sort of a subliminal text in advertising. So for example, if you think of those Axe body spray commercials, the underlying subtext is that if you buy this body spray, girls will like you. And when we say it out loud, when we uncover it, it sounds ridiculous, but advertisers are banking on the fact that you will subliminate that message and buy their product. So if we scroll down, you can see some examples from other students. I'm trying to scroll. There we go. So this one was a good one. Gabby put, I think the most memorable advertisement I saw when I was little was Chef Boyardee. I think it was memorable because it was always super interesting watching the can roll. I wish my mom allowed me to eat them when I was younger. And then she put the link, so we were able to watch the commercial. Again, this is to prep you for the assignment we're going to do later. You don't have to do it if you're absent, but I just wanted to make you aware of it. All right, on Schoology, there is a sheet I have where you need to take down the vocabulary. So if we go, remember we're in this white folder. So if you scroll down, you'll see the white Chapter 7 folder. go to classwork and discussions, and it's at the right end, 7.1, chapter 7, vocabulary. So if you download this sheet, it's a little vocabulary list, and put it into Notability. And as you're listening to the lecture, please take down the notes of the vocabulary. So put this in a Notability, and then you'll turn it in at the end of the chapter. So don't forget to do that, and we're going to continue. All right. So this lesson is going to focus on the first commandment. And let's see. So, excuse me. So I have the first three written here. But before we look at the commandments specifically, I just wanted to point out one thing. The idea of the letter versus the spirit of the law. So when we're talking about the letter of the law, we're taking the law extremely literally. So for instance, I have, you find the 10 Commandments in Exodus and Deuteronomy. Whoops, I kind of used the wrong color there. And what you'll see is Catholics and Protestants number them differently. So we're going to go with the traditional Catholic numbering of the 10 Commandments. I have a link in this slide if you're interested, and I'll be on Schoology as well, where you could get a deeper explanation of why this is. But in any case, if we take, for example, this is the full first commandment. From Scripture. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods besides me. You shall not make for yourself an idol or a likeness of anything in the heavens or in the heavens above or on the earth below or in the waters beneath the earth. You shall not bow down before them and serve them. So if, we took this super literally, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the letter of the law talks about how you shall not worship any other gods besides God. Now, if you're taking that super literally, you might say to yourself, well, I don't worship any other gods, so I'm keeping this commandment. But we got to go to the spirit of the law. What's the point? The idea is God should be the center of your life. So if there's something else taking up all of your time, like, for example, you're missing worship on the weekends, missing mass for sports, then sports have become your God. They've become your idol. So we're always looking at the 10 Commandments. We're not just looking at the literal words, but also what is the spirit of the law. So for instance, with the commandment to honor your father and mother, that doesn't just apply to your parents. It also applies to anybody who has a parental role in your life. So that would mean you should honor your teachers, treat government officials with at least a modicum of respect. So this is the commandment we're going to be focusing on. Okay, I forgot to show you something. Let me go back if I can. All right, so we were talking about the first commandment, and this commandment is against idolatry. So what is idolatry? It's any time you allow something else besides God to become your focus. God should be the center of your life. And so if something else is taking up all of your attention, it's become an idol for you. In the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, we heard that after Moses came down off the mountain, the people were worshiping a golden calf, and they were worshiping that as God. We don't typically worship idols or false gods like, say, the Babylonian god Marduk, but we put other things in the place of God, maybe money. What if you were willing to cheat on your taxes because you wanted to have more money? That would be, putting money before God, because God wouldn't desire that. So that's what idolatry is. Other sort of lesser forms of idolatry that we could find ourselves participating in would be superstition. So I'm going to be defining these words, and you need to be taking notes. These will be on your test. So if you need to stop it and pause it to take down the definitions, please do so. So superstition is any time an external object or act is used to bring about a desired outcome independent of God's will or one's interior disposition. So the idea with superstition is, well, maybe if you have a superstition that if you wear, purple socks at every track meet, you're going to win. Well, that's trying to basically take God's power away, trying to take not trusting God and his will for your life, but trying to control the outcomes of events. Divination is trying to unveil what God has hidden. So again, all of these show sort of a lack of trust in God. It comes in a lot of forms: astrology, contacting the demons or the dead, Ouija boards, palm reading. Again, you shouldn't need to consult a horoscope to know your future. You need to plan your future and trust in God. Necromancy or spiritism is trying to contact the dead, either through like a medium or a Ouija board. This is a very dangerous activity because very often demons will pose as loved ones, and this can become a door or an opening to them. So please be very careful of that. And finally, another form of like idolatry, of lack of trust in God, is the use of magic. And so they don't mean magic like to entertain us, like David Copperfield. What they mean by magic is using powers of the occult, which is like the supernatural phenomenon, to gain an advantage over others. So maybe if you guys watch that show called Supernatural, they sometimes have witches who put hex bags on people and it makes them sick or something. That would be magic. And black magic is when you use or sorcery. That's when you're using the power of demons to get results, to get what you want. And again, that's very, very dangerous. So those are all examples of sort of a lack of trust in God, trying to use other powers rather than putting your faith in God. Irreligion is when we kind of test God, tempting God, saying, asking him to prove himself, and it shows distrust. So examples of if you're showing this distrust would be sacrilege. And sacrilege profanes or treats as unworthy the sacraments, liturgical actions, persons, or places that are consecrated to God. So it profanes the sacred. And this could be anything. This could be treating rosaries disrespectful, talking very poorly about the leaders in our church, even as bad as there are some people who will purposely disgrace the sacrament of Eucharist. They'll come into church and they'll spit it out. So that's what sacrilege refers to. God's things are sacred and we should treat them with respect. And then simony or simony is when you sell spiritual goods. So we have an example of that in Acts of the Apostles with Simon the magician. And this would be selling spiritual goods for if like you were a priest and, you forced people to give you a kickback in order to give the sacraments. Now, this isn't the same as the church asking for donations for things. So, for example, or when you have to pay a fee to do confirmation. When you pay that fee, you're paying the fee because if you're going on a retreat, they need to pay for your food and your housing. You're not paying for the sacrament. And of course, we remember the scandal of the indulgences. So during Martin Luther's time in the Protestant Reformation, there was one man in particular, one priest, who was, making it seem like you could buy your way out of purgatory. And we still do believe in indulgences, but the idea that you could pay for salvation, that's a sin. That's simony. And for the most part, it's kind of the scandal of it's been a little bit overblown, but there was definitely at least one priest in particular that was at least misleading people, it seems, about the indulgences. So atheism as not agnosticism, as you know, atheism is to deny that God exists. Whereas agnosticism says you can't prove God. But what it ends up being is practical atheism. So it's sort of spiritually lazy. So you're not going to actually, agnostics don't really want to take a side. They are not going to say God doesn't exist, but they don't want to say that, Jesus is God or Buddha is God. So it ends up being sort of a practical form of atheism. So in practice, they just don't believe in God. Other different isms here, these are different ideologies that are atheistic. Humanism is the ideology that teaches the ultimate cause. Ultimate cause. This is Paul Tillich's word he uses for religion. Religion is your ultimate cause, and it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who's truly divine. So the ultimate cause in humanism is human beings. We are the pinnacle of creation, and everything we do should be for the benefit of humanity. Marxist philosophy and communism puts the state at the center of the universe and gives it the power to redistribute wealth. Marxist and communist ideologies are also atheistic. That was one of the things that brought down the fall of the Soviet Union, was many of the Eastern European countries, including Poland and Czechoslovakia, were deeply Catholic. And Pope John Paul II was very vocal in supporting them against the communist regimes that you would not allow them to have freedom of religion. Freudianism is the idea that ultimately everything that we do, the center of our world, is really our psychology, and our behavior is patterned after, the effects of our childhood. So Freud also kind of denied the existence of God. He said God was sort of like a projection of our hang-ups about our fathers into sort of the eternal. And then finally, materialism. Materialism can have a couple different meanings. It can mean excessive consumerism, like buying too many material goods. But in this case, it's the denial of the supernatural. So only the material world, what I can see, touch, and smell, exists. So it would even deny your consciousness. That's just sort of like something you're imagining. Your personhood, your idea of yourself isn't even real. So, of course, as Christians, we don't buy into materialism because I know my soul is real even though I can't see it. And I know God is real, the angels. There's a whole realm that's real. We just can't see it. So that's materialism. So all of these different things we've talked about to sum up here, these are all different practices or beliefs that can interfere with keeping God at the center of our life. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at this assignment here, classwork 7.21, the lure of false gods. If you're absent, you are going to make this one up. So I'm going to show you where it is on Schoology. So remember, chapter 7 is the white folder. So we're going to scroll down. Go to classwork and discussions. And here it is right here. Classwork 7.29, the lore of false gods. Okay, open. So what we're going to be doing is you can either make a digital poster or a paper poster, and there's a handout attached here that I can show you in a second. Using the handout as a guide, create a poster that answers the questions on the handout. You can make a paper poster using magazine advertisements, or you can make a digital poster using television or internet advertisements. Present the posters and discuss. You'll present your poster and analysis to the class. And then there's a discussion question you're going to answer as a large group. And finally, there's a reflection question you'll answer on the handout that's on a note. I'll give you a note card, and you'll reflect on those questions and then turn in your note card. This rubric here is the rubric we always use for posters and group presentations, so you're familiar with that. So the handout we're going to be using is right here. I'm not sure if this will open. Here it is. So first what you're going to do is, in a group, search through magazines that are directed at young men and women and take note of the things they propose for happiness and fulfillment. For example, in the areas of fashion, image, youth, beauty, acquisition of material goods. You might also examine TV advertisements or internet for us. So you're going to do either or. A paper poster using the magazines provided in class, or a digital poster using Padlet, using what you see on the internet. And this, you're going to fill out your notes on this sheet, but then present all your analysis on your paper poster or your digital poster. So the first thing you're going to be looking at is, here you're going to list the top 5 attractions. So here you'll jot down notes, but you're going to present this on your paper poster or digital poster. What are the top 5 attractions that are being presented to young people as highly desirable recipes for happiness? So like getting a lot of likes, being YouTube famous. Then the next part is identify 3 strategies used to attract young people into believing that these are necessary or more striving for. So look at the ads. What's the underlying message they're giving you? And that's what that whole warm-up was about. So in that Axe body spray ad, the underlying message is, well, if you want to be happy, you have to have a girlfriend. So what are the strategies they're using to attract you to these things? And then on this page, and again, you can jot notes on here, but all this needs to go on your poster. List 3 ways in which young people show that they believe in and take to heart these messages. So, for example, one of the things you might do is purchase the products. That shows you're buying into this idea, or perhaps imitating what celebrities do. Rather than dressing modestly, you see advertisements showing immodesty, so we conform our behavior to the media, not to what God wants. And then the final piece down here, identify 3 reasons why the prescriptions for happiness and fulfillment offered in the media seem more attractive than the prescription for happiness and fullness of life offered through serving God alone. So why would we rather be YouTube famous than go to Mass? So what are your reasons that make it hard to serve God, but we're willing to serve the media or man or money or sex, whatever you're going to put in the place of God? Then these are the classwork discussions we'll do here. And then finally, I'm going to give everybody a note card, and you're going to do this and turn in your note card. Write the first commandment on your note card. In light of your explorations in the class discussion, reflect on and name any false gods that are in your life at present. And write a prayer asking God to help you remember true happiness can only be found by placing God at the center of your life. So again, go back to St. Augustine's quote, my heart was restless until it rested in you, O Lord. You're not going to be happy because that striving, that feeling you have for whatever, for food, for money, for sex, you can get it, but you're still going to be unsatisfied and you're just going to want more. And it's because ultimately your heart is longing for God. And until you have him in your life, you won't be happy. So that's what this lesson is all about. If you have any questions, let me know. And do please make sure to make up this assignment if you're absent.